Hello and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know. And well, that's it, because there's nowhere to go around Southeast Michigan for Friday, March 20th, 2020. I'm Jer Stays. On today's show, of course, we continue to monitor the COVID-19 situation locally with updates. Then, a good topic since we're all cooped up inside and will be for a while, board game designer Nemo Rathwald joins me to talk about, well, games, board games. What are some of the best titles right now? What are some options if you're alone, have a family around, or it's a table of adults? All of that after I share a little programming note. Throughout the COVID-19 situation today, you might see extra shows in your feed. The number of questions coming into dailydetroit@gmail.com means we have a lot of work to do. Thanks to two new members, Stephanie and Jacob. You are awesome for helping us get through this. You can join them in helping push Detroit's conversation forward at patreon.com/dailydetroit. So here's where we stand with COVID-19 in Michigan. There are now 549 confirmed cases, according to the state, at 3 p.m. Friday. That's up 215 cases since yesterday. The fatality total has held at 3. Here's how the cases break down in Southeast Michigan. Oakland County has the most at 184. The city of Detroit at 149, which adds to the rest of Wayne County that has 67, and Macomb County has 86. Detroit's police department is suffering a wave of COVID-19 cases. Here's Police Chief James Craig at a press conference this afternoon.
And I will tell you, I've not seen anything like this. The information I'm giving you right now, undoubtedly at the conclusion of this presser, will change. So as of right now, we have 152 members of the Detroit Police Department that are quarantined. Of that number, 130 were ordered to quarantine by the department. Of that number, 22 were self-quarantined. And self-quarantine just simply means that their private doctor told them to self-quarantine. At this point, and this changed just, I want to say 2 hours before this meeting, we currently have 5 sworn Detroit police officers and 1 civilian contract employee who has tested positive for COVID-19.
There are currently about 2,200 sworn Detroit police officers. The chief says that service won't change within the city as of now. The chief has recently given officers more discretion on if they want to pursue misdemeanors in the field. Although identities and locations within the city weren't given, the chief did say that the 9th precinct at Gratiot and Gunston on the east side was particularly hit hard, and that they've backfilled the precinct with additional officers. The chief left the door open for service changes in the future, depending on the impact. Governor Gretchen Whitmer issued an executive order Friday that puts restrictions on non-essential medical and dental procedures starting tomorrow, Saturday, March 21st, at 5 p.m. Under it, hospitals, freestanding surgical outpatient facilities, dental facilities, and all state-operated outpatient facilities must implement a plan to temporarily postpone all non-essential procedures until the termination of the COVID-19 state of emergency. This basically means an end to all cosmetic and elective medical procedures until after this winds down. The goal is to keep capacity as free as possible for COVID-19, trauma, and emergency cases. The Movement Festival has moved its dates away from Memorial Day weekend. The festival brings people from around the world to the Motor City to celebrate techno and electronic music. The new dates are September 11th, 12th, and 13th. If you've already purchased tickets for this year, they'll be honored in September or in 2021. You've heard of food delivery, obviously, but what if you need some new vinyl to listen to? Well, Detroit rocker Jack White's Third Man Records is launching a new delivery service. Starting today, Third Man Delivery Service will offer home delivery, curbside pickup, and appointment-only shopping. They will offer LPs, 45s, books, magazines, and puzzles. Delivery service is available Monday through Friday from 10 to 5 in Metro Detroit if you call 313-209-5205. They're also doing this in Nashville, but, well, let's face it, this podcast isn't the Nashville Noon News. Third Man will also offer 30-minute shopping experiences by appointment only for groups of 6 or less. They say that they will clean the store deeply between appointments to CDC guidelines. So is this a sign of a new normal for a while? Well, I don't know, but it's interesting nonetheless. Joining me in the Daily Detroit studio is Nemo Rathwald. He is a game designer, and he designed the wonderful product called Overworld. He's also a friend of the show as well, and actually a member of Daily Detroit, and it's really good to see you, sir.
Yeah, proud to be a member. Happy to be here.
So what's really great about this and talking to you is that people have been quarantined or cooped up for a few days now, and it looks like they're going to be for a little while longer. And you actually have some options for people to get them entertained. You know, maybe they're stuck with their family, maybe they're stuck by themselves. And what are they going to do? What are they going to do to keep themselves busy? And I know that we're going to talk about board games and that there's so much more to the world of board games than Monopoly.
Sure. Like a lot of people have played the Monopoly app. You have a lot of fun. Or maybe you're a person who just doesn't like Monopoly. Maybe you have bad memories of Monopoly, or maybe you love it. Either way, I'm here to kind of expand the horizons of this indoor world that you're living in into the 21st century of really the new board games that have come out.
We're going to open some people's minds today.
Oh, yeah.
Sir. We're going to open some minds. All right. So first, let's talk about games for when you are by yourself. If you're stuck in the apartment and there's no one around except maybe your cat or your dog or no one, sadly.
Sure.
What can you do?
You know, it's amazing and to many people surprising what a renaissance solitaire board games are going through. If you had a poker deck and you played a bajillion games of solitaire and you're so bored of it, there are so many vibrant and interesting and exciting games out there that you can play solo. Like, for example, Onirim. Here's one I've got here that this is just so portable, just a little box, and then it comes with these cards. And this is a world of dreams in which you play these dream cards. And as you play them, it's like you're wandering through this labyrinth of dreams. And the idea is you have to play these colors and these symbols in the right order to unlock these mysterious doors. And then you get these really beautiful cards that are these mysterious and creepy nightmare cards that pop out and try to mess up your perfect hand that you formed here.
And I'll mention that I really liked how compact this all is, since it's basically a card game and it's easy to keep around the house, and it's also very attractive.
Oh yeah, this is just beautifully done.
This is great. Now, how much time does an average round of this go?
This Onirim is about 15 minutes. I mean, once you get really used to it, it can be even faster than that.
So this is kind of like the same theme as like Uno or something like that, where it's like there's a different game every time you play.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. There's a lot of replayability.
That's awesome. Now, there's also games for adults too. Ones that, let's say you're there with a spouse, a family member, that kind of thing you don't want to watch TV. There's lots of great options out there.
Oh, for sure. So there's been some classics that have come out in the past 15 to 20 years, like Ticket to Ride is probably one of the most...
Oh, yeah, love Ticket to Ride.
Oh, yeah, one of the most venerable classics out there.
Great date night game, too.
Absolutely. You're putting your trains down to form a connection between cities on the map that are according to the tickets that you have in your hand that said you have to connect Salt Lake City to Detroit or what have you. It's a brilliant game. It's easy to pick up, relatively easy to pick up for adults. It's very competitive, gives you a lot of strategy, a lot of things to think about, and it's fairly quick. I want to say that one will typically take about 45 minutes.
Okay. And then another one on this list that you've got going on is Carcassonne.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's an amazing game. This is a game where you draw tiles at random from a bag and you add them to a great big map that you're building.
So you're building the board as you go.
You build the board as you go, and then you put your little men on there in order to claim different features on the map as you create this map of a land full of castles.
I hear this is also a favorite game of cats to knock things off tables.
Well, you might want to keep the cats away from it. One of the great things about Carcassonne, let's say you don't like the competitive nature of Ticket to Ride where somebody could cut off the route that you're trying to connect in Ticket to Ride. Well, in Carcassonne, it's very challenging to get in your opponent's way. You're trying to race to do something even more exemplary than what they're doing, but you're not necessarily heading off each other to stop or prevent each other from succeeding.
So it's more of like individual successes against each other as opposed to trying to throw spike strips underneath the other guy.
Absolutely. So just look around at the people who are in your home as to whether they're going to get like really upset if you are playing a game where you can absolutely destroy everything that they did. Well, maybe if you don't want to be like that, you want to play Carcassonne where nobody's really interfering with anybody. You're both just trying to achieve as much as you can and be the best at it. You know, you had a guest on the show yesterday who was a birder. Yeah. And do you know that actually the top of the charts of the new hotness is a game about birding called Wingspan by Stonemaier Games?
Wow. Okay. So I'm assuming birds are involved.
Oh, yes. Every bird you could possibly imagine. There's a couple of expansions that have different birds from different continents. Each card has this gorgeous illustration of a species of bird and then a little bit of flavor text at the bottom telling you some fun facts about the bird. It's got a really interesting strategic gameplay. Now, it is pretty advanced, but it is, I want to say it goes for $60 these days. It's actually started to get tough to find at times.
Oh, because it's so popular.
So popular. They can't keep it on the shelves.
Wow. Well, you know, I like how we've kind of stepped up here from kind of the beginning to something more complicated and involved. Wingspan, how much time is that going to give you? How long does a game go?
I've played it for about an hour and a half at a time usually.
Oh, wow. So this is like the movie of board games.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, set aside an evening. It'll be worthwhile.
One of the games that's really taken my friend group by storm, but I do know is a little bit more complicated to play, although I enjoy it, is Parks. Can you tell me about where that came from? That whole thing? Because, I mean, it's just pretty.
Well, yeah, it's the new hotness right now. Basically, the entire National Parks Service came out with a board game. Many of your listeners probably have seen this beautiful series of posters that the National Parks Service had commissioned by so many different artists for our nation's national parks. And they, as long as they had all the art from the beautiful posters, they figured, why don't we put those all onto cards and make a board game that is just staggeringly beautiful production values. Right now, if you feel like, wow, I miss the outdoors, I want to get that a little bit of that feeling of fresh air, this is literally a game in which you collect sunshine tokens, you collect rain tokens, you collect tree tokens, you collect mountains, you collect all these cute little animal silhouette figures that you can collect as your hikers move through the national parks. It's such a beautiful game and really fun. Only takes about, I want to say, about an hour tops. First time you play it, and then it'll start to get faster.
Well, I feel like, though, and I've only played it a couple times, but I feel like there's like a couple of hurdles to this one. I just want to make sure that listeners know. Can you kind of explain that? Because I'm no board game expert. I just play and kind of fumble around. Why am I feeling that?
What about Parks?
Yeah.
You know, there's a range of different difficulty levels in board games as to how many rules you need to absorb. If you're going to be playing this multiple times and really getting the hang of it, go ahead and invest the time reading the rule book thoroughly. Parks, let's just be clear, is a step up from something like Ticket to Ride or Carcassonne in just the number of things that you have to remember to do. With my game Overworld, when I designed it, I deliberately made it so that if you went to break a rule, you physically were prevented from doing it because the equipment wouldn't fit together. So you don't have to remember it. There will be some things in Parks that you go back and you're like, wait a minute, we forgot to do this. So it's a bit more advanced gaming.
Let's pause here for a second to kind of talk about what is kind of your theory about what makes a good board game in general? Because I mean, there's so many kinds of games that are out there. But what is it that makes a good game that people enjoy?
Well, everybody's got different tastes, but I can tell you this. It does need to have replayability where it's not just the exact same thing happening over and over and over again. It's got to give you interesting decisions, but keep it simple enough so that it's very challenging. It's very unlikely that you're going to forget the rules or you're going to play wrong. The challenge has to be in playing better, not just remembering the rules and obeying them correctly.
So much like a good cocktail, there has to be balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's keep going down the list here because obviously there are people with children out there.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I only have fur kids, but there are many people with children out there. You know, earlier in the week, we had a live stream with both Sven and Cheyenne talking about all the things you can do with kids. Figured may as well check in with you for a board game recommendation for the little ones.
Oh, a great board game for the whole family is King of Tokyo.
Okay.
You've got these great big cardboard stand standing figures that are so colorful of Godzilla and King Kong and the monster that ate New York City and the monster that ate Tokyo. You get to roll great big handfuls of dice, and really, just who doesn't like that? And then there's kind of the take that element to it. Let's just be clear. This is one of those games where you're going to roll your dice, then you're going to decide your monster is going to whack another player's monster, and you get to pick who. Yeah.
No, that sounds like fun.
The dice do mean that the kids can sometimes win against the adults. It kind of levels that playing field, keeps everybody engaged. There's just that fun level of, I'm going to roll a huge handful of dice, then I'm going to take my monster and I'm going to whack another giant monster with it.
Now, this next recommendation, and I saw this on the list ahead of time, and I had to chuckle, because you kind of have to have a dark sense of humor to play a game called Pandemic right now.
Oh, yeah. So here's the thing about Pandemic, which is the classic cooperative board game. It's one of the classics of cooperative board gamings. This is where you don't want to be against any of your fellow players. All the players.
That actually kind of feels good in this situation.
It does. All the players are working together. They're banding together as a team. None of the players are against any other player. You play against the deck of cards. You have a board, which is the map of the world. You have cubes that come out that are these various diseases that, as a team, you work to conquer, and you defeat those diseases, and you save the world. Now,
that sounds like exactly what we need to do right now.
It's the kind of spirit we need to do to come together. That having been said, if you'd really rather avoid that theme right now, what you could do is get another game by the exact same designer, Matt Leacock, which is almost the exact same game. It's so similar, but it doesn't have the Pandemic theme that Pandemic does. And that game is Forbidden Island. Comes in a tin. That's really fun.
Oh, I love things in tins.
Yeah. So in that game, you've got almost the exact same rules, the exact same style of play, the exact same cooperation between players, but you've got to go to an island, find a bunch of parts, put them together, and escape before the island sinks. So it's just a different theme in case you're really not interested in playing a board game about pandemics right now.
Well, and what I like about what we've gone through so far is that it helps people kind of get off of the idea of being on their phone or their computer. It gives them a respite, their eyes a respite. I know a lot of people may be spending a ton of time on their phone or a ton of time on their computer, and maybe you want to interact with the rest of the world. But these next couple of options, I mean, they're using digital tools to their best ability right now, right?
Oh, absolutely. I know I miss my board gaming friends, and for those who are really into the board gaming hobby, that was a major form of socializing. And now, well, you're not going to go out and do that. You can't actually contract any infections biologically through a digital network. So,
correct.
Yeah. If let's say Ticket to Ride, actually, that we mentioned before, has an app, and it's wonderful because me and my friends who love Ticket to Ride, some of us have it on that app on our phone.
So you're using that more now
on their desktop. We're just using it constantly these days. So everybody's just saying, "Hey, I'm going to wait 10 minutes," and all of a sudden I hear this doot doot, and you hear your phone, if you've got your volume turned up, or your desktop will actually make a train sound saying it's your turn. So you don't have to constantly have your eyes glued to it. It'll just send you a notification when it's your turn to play Ticket to Ride.
I have to download this because number one, I like Ticket to Ride. Number two, train sounds. I mean, one of the great things about the studios, we're actually close enough to hear the train.
Sure.
And I've always loved, I used to do model trains when I was like, 7 years old, like big old train sets and everything. So this makes me happy just to have that little chime.
Well, download the Steam app. That's an application that will be a distribution platform for getting video games on your desktop computer. But this video game is a board game.
There's quite a few of those, aren't there?
Oh, absolutely. Steam is just full of them, full of really good ones too. But if you have the iPhone or Android and you just want to go to one of their app stores, you can also find the exact same app for the phone that will connect you to the same network of players. I've got it on my Mac. My friends have it on their phones. We actually just play back and forth together. It's one of the most popular board game apps in the world, so there's tons of players that you can play with all the time.
That's awesome. And then before we leave, there's something that has a lot more options. What's this called?
Well, Board Game Arena is something I recommend as a website where you can go and there's just dozens and dozens and dozens of really high-quality board games on there. Now, this does mean that even though Board Game Arena is free, there is more of a complexity level. You need to actually log on to Board Game Arena. It's free, but then you'll surf through the menus of what different games are on there. You select the game. All of your friends log on. They meet you in that chat room.
To me, this sounds like late 90s, early 2000s internet.
Yeah, but with way better graphics and animations so that it looks like you're really playing a board game on your screen.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to have to check this out.
It's beautiful.
Well, Nemo Rathwald, I really appreciate you. You know, he is the designer of the game Overworld. He's also working on some other active projects. You can pick up a copy of Overworld at overworldboardgame.com. It's right there. You're going to be supporting a local game designer because, yes, they are here right in the city of Detroit.
Absolutely. And, you know, in the time that we're going through now, board games are absolutely not going away, and they're going to be crucial to our ability to continue to enjoy ourselves.
Well, and I'll say this. If you all have some games to recommend to our listeners, want to chat about it more, send us an email at dailydetroit@gmail.com. I'll make sure that Nemo gets a hold of these too, and we can maybe revisit this if this continues on, maybe come up with some more ideas in a little while if we're still in the house in another week or two.
Well, for sure. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Well, that's all for today's show, a preview of coming conversations. There's a new memo from the Michigan School Board saying that virtual instruction given during the statewide school closure won't count as school days. What does that mean? That'll be in your feed for this weekend. And Sven will have some updates from his neck of the woods, the Lower Woodward Corridor. They're doing some interesting things to make it through these troubling times. We're here for you. We're with you. And remember, if you have questions, email us at dailydetroit@gmail.com. We will work to answer them and track the stories down. And thanks to our members who make this possible at patreon.com/dailydetroit. With that, I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and we'll get through this together.